Welcome to this, the fourth Thessaloniki Metropolitan Summit. 4 times we've done this. Every year it's better. I'll leave you to judge whether we achieve that standard this year, but I'm confident because we've got a fantastic lineup. While everybody comes in and joins us in the room, I'll just give some introductory thoughts on the layout of the land as I see it globally and regionally. We'll stop off for some thoughts about Greece and about the UK along the way, and then we'll get our fellow guests up. So the first thing to say, I think, is that the global economy in broad terms is in a fairly comfortable place, which might have surprised a few of us a year or 2 years ago. Things look a little better than we feared they might. And we find ourselves enjoying a landing that's certainly bumpy, but recession-free, which is a good result. And that's largely thanks to actions taken by central banks over the past couple of years. As is so often the case, the insatiable American consumer has kept the US economy humming along and supporting the domestic economy as well as global demand. Asia remains the fastest growing region, but India is taking over as the main dynamo there. China, which has done the heavy lifting in recent decades, is now in a slowing phase and faces quite serious challenges over the coming years. Growth in Europe is patchy, with some countries doing far better than others. Germany is reaching for a new growth model in the wake of the rupture in its relations with Russia, its chief energy supplier. Greece, happily, is doing far better and reaping the rewards of a period of coherent policymaking and consistent management. I'm forecasting growth of just under 2.5% this year and just over that for next year, a percentage point or so above the average for the euro area. And I expect this trend to last for a few more years. However, I should point out that GDP per head in Greece in real terms and at purchasing power parity is yet to recover its levels of 2007 before the crisis hit. In the UK, we're enjoying a period of relative political stability after what's been a turbulent few years. The government of Sir Keir Starmer is front-loading fiscal measures needed to get the public finances on a more solid foundation rather than chasing popularity. The government is also declining to fuel the culture war fervour that was such an obsession of its predecessor. These questions obviously won't go away, but the government isn't weaponising them in the service of its own narrow interests, which I find encouraging. Finally, the damage inflicted by Britain's departure from the EU has been limited, while Britons in general are increasingly favourable towards a closer and more rational relationship with the bloc. And we have a government in place that's willing to negotiate on a pragmatic basis to help make that happen. But beyond this fairly benign international picture, there are serious uncertainties facing the globe and this region. First, wars. The Ukraine war grinds on with no prospect of peace in the short term. The scales gradually seem to be tilting in Russia's favour. But the cost to Russia's long-term economic prospects is high. In the Middle East, Israel's response to the incursion by Hamas in October last year continues too. The risk of a wider conflict, bringing with it major disruption to regional security and to global supply chains, is low, I think, but not negligible. Wars elsewhere, such as in Sudan, for example, attract less attention, but have similar potential for disruption. The next threat to the benign economic picture is the developing superpower competition between the US and its Western allies, and China and a still nascent group of nations attracted by its governance model and its deep pockets. The return of nationalistic industrial policy, euphemistically called de-risking, and the threat of protectionist trade measures threaten to undermine global growth in the coming years. Finally, since it's only 2 months away, I should mention the other big uncertainty overhanging global prospects, and that's the election in the US. The pendulum has swung a couple of times in the campaign so far, and at this distance, the outcome is too close to call. Key areas to watch, though, are whether the Democrats can convert the momentum they gained with the change of candidate from Biden to Harris into a lasting and significant lead in the handful of swing states that really matter. The second is what measure, should he lose out on voting day, Donald Trump will take to try to change the outcome. We're used to undecisive elections in Europe, and many countries are equipped to carry on with the daily functions of administration, even in the absence of a government. That would be new for the US, and once again, the potential for disruption to the global economy is substantial. So I think that's enough for us to worry about for the rest of the day. It's certainly plenty for us to discuss, debate, and explore over the sessions that we have lined up ahead of us for today. But before we move on to those, I'd like to invite up onto the stage Fotis Kolias, who's the director at Power Game, who are our partners. We're very grateful to them for helping us put on this event. Come up, please.